Professor, so good to see you here in Shanghai. How do you see your research is related to the overall transformation the Chinese economy is going through?
Well, I'm very much in favor of the openness of economies, that we should be open, trading with each other, exchanging ideas, collaborating in the development of science.
About openness, Professor, as you know, at the opening ceremony of CIIE, the Chinese premier talked about the upgraded opening up of China's policy.
Yes.
There were earlier laundry list of things that China has promised to do in terms of upgraded openness.
Yes.
What is your take of this list, and what could that mean for the rest of the world?
Well, the list that was mentioned there, which was repeated by people who are actually active carrying it out, who came to the launch of the World Openness Report. Mm-hmm. It's a good list to work on. So far, performance hasn't been very good, not only in China, but throughout the world. The performance for openness, with all countries opening where they're saying they're going to do it with policy, is rather slow. Mm. Other countries have drawn up good policies for openness as well. So my main wish, if you like now, or what I would like to see countries doing, is actually getting activated quickly and put into practice those openness measures that have been announced.
Translate words into actions.
But the more difficult part is to translate the words that are in regulations and new law and new initiatives into actions that will see it on the ground. And of course, businesses are waiting to see what will be happening. Local governments need to take actions, the central government to see that through. I mean, I'm not saying they're not doing it, but when you see the state of openness now in the world, and unfortunately it's going down, and it should really be reversed. Mm.
You've been doing research a lot in recent years about artificial intelligence, Professor, especially how it is related to the labor market.
Yes.
And what does that mean for the human resources and job market in the future? You recently talked about the importance of not only STEM education, but also in liberal arts. Unlike some of the advocates of STEM education only. Tell me more about what do you mean and why?
You see, the question of what people should train in the world of AI is very tricky. There is no doubt that AI is coming to labor markets. It's not quite there yet, it's still very limited. But it's increasing at a very fast rate. So people think, all right, now we're going to work with computers, with new software, with decisions being made online. Therefore, what we need to do is to learn how to operate this equipment and how to understand it and how to process the data. And then we'll gain an advantage over our competitors in business, for example, or we learn more if we are government enacting legislation, we learn more about the needs of the people. That's very correct. But that's only a small part of the labor market that is going to do that. The biggest part of the labor market will be concerned with person-to-person services. We have an aging population. They are going to need health and care. Health might move on to the world of AI a little, using AI to diagnose or even operate if you need an operation, but care will never move to AI. Care needs the love and care of a person to another person. There's no way machinery can give you that. Then we retired people, but also younger people, they need leisure activities. They need to go out. They need to go to the countryside and enjoy themselves. It's healthier, it's good for their well-being, it's good for our health. Where you're not AI or learning mathematics and engineering and how to work with data, it's not going to help you do that. What's going to help you do that is finding good service wherever you go. And although in restaurants they might be using Q codes for menus and they might be using robots to clean tables, but they cannot just get rid of the people. It's people who will come and talk to you. And And that's the sense that I was talking about, the need to learn the traditional skills of good communication, good behavior towards other people, knowing how to offer a good service, person-to-person service. Those are going to be the majority of skills.
Do you see there's sufficient amount of training possibilities? Do you see there are easy access for people to have education related to those fields you just mentioned? What needs to be done?
No, as yet we don't have it, and I'm glad to see many economists and education people doing research now in exactly what we need to do at school, because the school curricula were formed at a time when we needed different kinds of skills. They tend to specialize too much, whereas we need a more general knowledge of the school curriculum. One training approach that would be essential would be big companies involved in these service sectors to provide their own training as well, and do it with the initiative of the worker. Do it within the company, on the intranet of the company, for example, so that once you acquire a general education at school, then you get trained at each company in the skills that they need. That would be better. But generally, though, both from personal experience and from what I read, the quality of service is not very good. You need to improve here in China as well, the quality of service offered in the what you might call the entertainment sector. You are greeted and served in restaurants, for example. You don't pay as much as you pay in Europe, where I'm used to. But there are people prepared to pay for that money and get the better service. There are some that offer exceptional service, but the majority of ones, if you walk into any, it's a little bit, a little bit here, a little bit there, some success, some not.
It's very interesting, Professor, you raised that point, because China aspires to have a high quality growth.
Yes.
And also encourage its consumers to spend.
Yes.
Not only within the country, also overseas, but all of this requires great and better service, especially demanded by the middle class.
Yes.
So how is that likely to happen? I'm sure a lot of policymakers knock on your door and ask, Professor, do you have some remedies?
A lot of the services that can be supplied, that if the quality was better, people would go outside the home and get them. But if you go outside the home and you are not completely satisfied by the quality you get, then you take care of many things yourself at home, yes. And you end up not spending enough in the service sector and not growing. But it's essential to grow a good quality service sector, because people are going to lose their jobs in manufacturing as it gets automated. There is still a big chunk of the population employed in very unproductive agriculture. They need to move out of land and mechanize that land. And it's this, they need to get training how to provide these services and provide them in the market, so that they can get people outside their homes to spend. You save too much here and you spend too little.
Yes, so it's a very clear idea coming from you, how China should improve so-called to the new quality, how China can realize the higher quality growth by providing better service sector to the consumers. And you are also arguing, as you said earlier, a transformation of training possibilities. Namely, it's not just school, but rather related to school, vocational training, for example, and also opportunities that they can exercise while they're learning.
Yeah, that's absolutely essential, the vocational training and the opportunities. Something like now you might see how we're going to achieve it. I mean, these things don't happen overnight as a miracle. But you need, some provider will come in, what they call the disruptor company, that will provide that better service, will attract more people, and then others will copy them. And that's how you move step by step. But it needs to be done. And I still don't see happening very much. I mean, even, not even, I mean, journalists have a lot to offer actually in that. Like in European countries where I am, when there is a new entrant in the market, say in the entertainment market, you are going to read, you are going to see it online, you are going to read it in newspapers, what's new for us to do in our time off, yeah. And then if they say, oh, this is highly recommended, amazing food, amazing quality of service, then people go there. And then others try to get it as well. In fact, the idea of leaving reviews of places you visit, that almost every company does it now, at least in Britain where I am, is a very good one. At first I thought, why should you go and talk to everyone about that? But in fact, they take it seriously. Companies are taking them seriously.
While you are doing research about labor market, you now touch on a lot on the evolution of aging populations in Asia, for example. China is an interesting example. What is your assessment of the impact of the aging population on a economy such as large and different as China's?
Well, China has a special problem about aging population because its fertility rate is very low. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's the lowest of the middle income and advanced countries alongside Japan. Japan has the same problem. According to the United Nations, to keep constant population, you need 2.1 children. So you can imagine what the difference is. In both Europe, North America, they have higher than one. Yeah. Now, what that implies is because we have better health standards overall, people live longer, a big section of the population is moving to older ages, and there aren't enough young people to support them through jobs. So what you have is what we call the support ratio, in that how many people of working age there are for each retired person. And in China, it's going to go down from 12 in 1990 to 2 in a few years' time. That means that we have to find other ways of producing. More for each employed person, more employed persons. Otherwise, there will be nothing for these poor, old, healthy people to consume and be happy.
So what is your solution?
The thing is that being in the labor market, it's not just a big chore and boring and all that, provided we know how to improve the quality of jobs. And in fact, now my main research project in London, where I live, is about improving the quality of jobs. What can we do to improve the quality? If you improve the quality of jobs, it becomes a more pleasurable activity to go into work, and you help society and other people by doing that.
Yeah. But will automation be able to solve the problem?
No. It will be able to contribute to the solution, but the solution of the problem is in human hands. People will always be superior to machinery. That's the only forecast I have confidence in my life that I make.
It's well said. So you don't think automation and the use of AI, for example, will be the solution to solve the aging population?
It's certainly part of the solution, but it's not the solution. Because older people will need more person-to-person service because health standards inevitably deteriorate. Okay. And AI is not going to offer you that. I mentioned that we need to improve the quality of work, and from what we know in the studies that we are doing, AI is not always improving the quality of work. Many workers don't like some types of AI that are being introduced. Then, so far, robotics AI are mainly taking jobs in manufacturing so far, which is very well, like manufacturing in the United States, United Kingdom occupies about 9% of the population. In China, it occupies 30% of the population. Okay, the robots that are being installed now and the AI will knock maybe 15, 20% out in the next few years. Workers who are needed in the service sector, because the older people will have needs in the service sector. But we need more. We need to improve the quality of the service that AI will not help us doing. We need more people employed. Those who will be released from manufacturing are not enough to grow a service sector. So don't think we can sit back and let scientists discover more automation technology and we'll be okay.
With an aging population, you see so many different changes in different sectors. Yes. For example, housing, healthcare, financing, and also many other areas. Usually this is an evolution that we are going to experience. Yes. So how do we see experiences coming from others, such as the Japanese society or the European society, some of them, are going to have an impact on our understanding of the process that China probably have to go through?
Well, you see, those countries like both Japan and Europe, they have the advantage that they have an established service sector that is providing the services that older people need. On the other hand, they have problems that China doesn't have, especially related to the health sector, because they introduce, especially in Europe, they introduce welfare states, expensive welfare states, to provide health for everyone, without anticipating that the population is going to be older and will have a lot more needs than now. And what they are now doing is going through reform of these services they are provided to accommodate the aging society. In China, you have the problem that you haven't grown the service sector into the size that you want it to be at, but at least you don't have all those restrictions from earlier legislation and earlier accumulated traditions, rights that people want. You have a clean slate, basically. So it needs great, great care when it comes to the health sector, in fact, from the government primarily, because there should be government support, and to the education sector as well, to develop in a way that will deal with this low fertility rate that you have.
As you know, China has suggested once and again that it's able to achieve the around 5% GDP growth. As an economist, a Nobel Prize winner, how do you see these aspirations and likely its implementations?
5% actually is feasible. I mean, I'm not saying that definitely they will do it, but it is feasible because of the low productivity state of the Chinese labor market. When Germany and Japan had the low productivity that China has now in relation to the United States, say, they grew at 8% for the next 15 years. 8% for China is not feasible because there are now other priorities and impediments to growth. Like, we need green growth, so there is greening, destroying all factories, polluting factories, going for new forms of energy. When Germany and Japan were growing, and I'm talking about 1960s and 1970s, they didn't have those factors, and there are many others. Those many others are estimated to take away something like 3% of the growth that the Germans and Japanese had. And therefore, instead of the 8% that we know historically that was taking place at these levels of productivity, well, we could get 5%. Now, of course, there are many other factors involved, but at least what we know from our economic studies and economic history is that 5% is feasible.
We see this green transformation going on in China, and China has been working on green-related sectors, including electronic vehicles, which has become such a big news story in the world. And you are based in Europe, and you know the twists and turns of all of this. What is your take as a Nobel Prize economist?
No, I think we should embrace the new technologies and encourage more production in that direction, not try and stop trade and punish each other. My view about Europe is that Europe needs an industrial policy in light of the new technologies, new competition, which it doesn't have now. And the response to seeing all these Chinese vehicles that maybe there are indirect forms of subsidizing the production of EVs in China, but I would welcome that because that's the direction that we want to go. So do the same in Europe, have some industrial policy. Don't say, oh, you know, we cannot compete with them because we're absolutely against this form of government interference and therefore let's put tariffs that will increase their prices to what we would have. Productivity growth comes from innovations and help from government that reduces costs. So if another country manages to reduce its costs one way or another, then try and do it yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
So get your industry strong, not by punishing others.
Yeah, you cannot get strong by punishing others. And I feel about that throughout, actually, not only with EVs. I mean, a global economy that works on similar kinds of rules will always be stronger than several smaller ones that are protected and do their own thing on their own.
Professor, it's always a pleasure to see you, and thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you very much for the interview.